All right, what's going on next year, Nation? We have a very, very special guest here. If this is your first time joining in, welcome. If not, welcome back. If you've been to any Mets games, you will definitely recognize who we have here today. Mike, thanks so much for coming on to the pod. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Justin. Thanks for reaching out. Once you found me and hit me up and told me a bit about your story, I got to check you out. I was like, yeah, let's chop it up. Let's talk. And whether it's Mets or whatever else, I'm all yours.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks again. And a little bit about the brand. Forever Next Year started out kind of as this sort of like this joke of, we're upset fans, we're diehards, but we find ourselves on the losing end of things. And since then, it's really evolved into this movement of fans that can come together through the losses and through the lows to say, you know what, we're sticking with this thing forever and ever. So, your time at the Mets, I mean, what do you think has been one of the coolest parts about some of the fans you may have spoke to, or your time just working with the team? Like, what are some of the coolest things you've learned?
Well, in terms of talking about stuff like this, the community, the fan base, like you said, people are uniting around the fact that there's always next year. Um, you know, the job isn't fake for me. I've been a Mets fan my whole life. My dad was a Mets fan, moved to Queens, moved to Flushing in 1972. Was an immigrant, and what were all the cool kids doing at that time? They were Mets fans because Tom Seaver and Tug McGraw and going to the World Series in '73. So to fit in, he just decided to basically be a front runner, be a bandwagon fan, which I think an entire generation of Mets fans find that hard to believe. Like, it's not the Mets that you bandwagon, it's the Yankees, right? But my
Right.
dad was the flip side of that. So for me, knowing that my whole life up until I became a Mets employee was about this, it was about the heartbreak and the great times and cherishing them when they did come. For me, the 98, 99, 2000 Mets were like my sweet spot. I'm a little bit older than you, but each generation you could tell had like its team that it connected to and with. And obviously, for all of us, I was a year old the last time the Mets won a World Series. But for those of us that have never seen a ring or a parade for the Mets, it was about coming together. And so for me, the coolest thing to answer in a macro sense about working for the Mets is getting to experience that every single day with 40,000 other people that feel the same way. That's hyperbole, of course, because there's
Yeah.
always people from other teams or there's people that are just there for the good time, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So night after night, whether it's season ticket holders that are there all the time. I mean, I've had people that Mets fans that have offered to pay like my parking tickets when I tweet about it online because we've gotten that close from
Wow.
hanging out at Citi Field so often. And it's just so cool to know that, okay, this sensation I grew up with that was really raised into me by my parents is something that so many other people share. And the fact that I can be there every single night, whether you come to every game or you come to one game a year or 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever, we're all in this together. Not to quote High
Absolutely.
School Musical, but that's, I think, the coolest thing
Yeah.
about sports in general and about Mets fandom in particular, because we've all been through a lot of stuff. So it helps it to go through it together.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, especially last season, it was we kind of had the last few months of the season. It was kind of that slow burn until we eventually kind of missed out at the last moment. But this off season has been a roller coaster. It's been a wild ride. And before we get into that, I want to talk with you about kind of your path before the Mets and your story there. I read a lot of really interesting things about you won a reality show and you started something with the San Diego Padres and you were a host for a trivia show. I mean, what like can you talk more about your journey and doing all these really cool things and what has been the most rewarding part about this whole process so far for you?
Well, it's a story I've told a lot and often that when I was a kid, like a lot of people, I wanted to play for the Mets. I wanted to be second baseman
Me
or
too.
center fielder. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure a lot of people watching or listening are nodding their head in the
Yeah.
affirmative. And I, like a lot of people, I learned very quickly that wasn't going to happen. I played Little League for 2 years, and I think my 10-year-old season, I drew one walk, and that was the only time I made it on base the entire season. And I knew at that point, all right, puberty's coming. I'm falling behind. It's probably a good time to abandon that dream.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I loved sports and I loved the ability to watch games. And as I was already thinking about a career as a 10 or 11-year-old, because that was the kind of geek that I was,
Yeah.
I was thinking, wait a minute, like I'm watching the Mets every night with my dad and my mom, and we're watching the Super Bowl or we're watching the NBA Finals or whatever. And there's these people that get to be there at the game and like talk about it. And I wanted to be a play-by-play guy. So I grew up with Bob Costas as kind of my idol. And so I was sort of lucky in a way that I knew very young and very early what I wanted to do with my life from a work perspective. So I was able to get on that track right away. And through high school, joining the sports section of the newspaper and then becoming editor in chief of this paper, and then going to Syracuse, which was renowned for being a broadcasting school, and on and on. So yeah, it all started just being a kid and wanting to be going to sports games for free, basically, or having people pay me to go for sports games to make a career out of it. And so, yeah, I wanted to do play-by-play, and that was what I ended up tracking toward. I did a lot of that during college. Actually, funny enough, the sweatshirt I'm wearing right now, for people who are watching this, is the Orleans Cardinals, since renamed to the Redbirds of the Cape Cod Baseball League. And, I did a summer there on Cape Cod, a summer in the Alaska Baseball League.
Yeah.
I did a lot of play-by-play in the minors and for college baseball and stuff. And that was my path at the beginning of my career. I realized that very quickly that was not a sustainable lifestyle for what I was looking for. There are only 30 Major League Baseball TV play-by-play jobs, and someone like Gary Cohen, for example, who was a hero of mine growing up, ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
He's all of our heroes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just took a calculated risk when I was in my early 20s, thinking, all right, I can try doing this minor league baseball thing for 5-10 more years, maybe get to AA, maybe get to AAA. But do I want to live in Louisville to try and pursue my dream, or would I rather move back home? I'm from New Jersey, right outside of New York City, and try and figure it out from there and be near family and be near friends and be in what I think is the greatest city. All right. Well, hopefully, I don't know if you can edit this or not, but
No worries. No worries.
my iPhone, because I have my iPhone on, because I'm watching my daughter, my 9-month-old daughter, who I just put to bed before we started recording, and my iPhone keeps trying to take over as the microphone on our recording instead of the microphone I'm using. So anyway, I decided, play-by-play is just not for me. I'm going to come to New York and figure it out from there. And then every job, every experience you mentioned was basically just a succession of cool opportunities that came up.
Yeah.
Guinness World Records is hiring. Yeah, let me apply for that.
Yeah.
All right, I got that job. Travel the world. This game show is looking for auditions for contestants. Yeah, why not? I'm good at it when I watch it on TV. Yeah, let me go for it. Hosting a wild animal show, hosting like a lifestyle program. It all were just opportunities. And when you work in media full time, a lot of times as a freelancer, the jobs aren't always there, and you got to pay the bills. So as gigs came up, even if it wasn't in my wheelhouse, I never in my life thought I would host a wild animal show where every week a zoologist would bring in a penguin or a cheetah or a sloth for me to pet and play with. But if it's a cool thing and it's telling stories and it's connecting with people and it's getting someone to enjoy whatever that content is, yeah, I'm down for it. So that's what's led me to a lot of these opportunities. And thankfully, one of those ended up being the Mets, kind of bringing me back to my childhood dream of making it onto the field for the Mets. Not in the lineup, but I am on the field at Citi Field every Mets home game. So I think for a 9-year-old me, that still counts.
That's awesome. It really seems like one of the coolest parts, and I see one of the my things that I feel like I've been learning as I've been growing a brand is you got to really be a go-getter, and you got to just not be afraid to hear the answer no. And I'm sure that when you were trying to find these gigs in the minors and you were coming up and doing all this, I mean, how many times did you get rejected or not hear anything back from people, and you just had to say, you know what, I'm just going to keep going, and who cares? I don't care what people think about me, and I'm just going to do what I have to do.
It's a requirement in this business, and I'm sure you're finding the same thing, but rejection is part of the game. I remember the first ever minor league baseball job fair that I went to, where I ended up getting my first job. I met the guy in the bathroom the last day of the conference as I was leaving to go home, to go to the hotel, pack up and go to the airport. That happened because for the 3 days prior, every single job opportunity or person I met with rejected me. So
Wow.
imagine like in person, 3 straight days of rejection. That can really rag on a guy. And that wasn't exclusive to the beginning of my career. Even after I hosted for the Padres, and you would think, hey, at that time, Fox Sports San Diego existed, and now with Bally and FanDuel, they've rebranded so many times, but it's the Fox Sports brand. I was on TV for a Major League Baseball team on their RSN 7 days a week. You would think, man, I made it. And once that job disappeared, I thought I would have my choice of being able to work anywhere else. And I remember I kept a notebook because I was curious at that time since I'd been through it before. And I wrote down every job I applied for just to
Wow.
keep track. And I remember the number. It was 128 either rejections or never heard back from before I even got a sniff of a next gig. And that was like an 8-9 month
Crazy.
process. So
That
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's brutal. But if you have the desire to continue whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's being on camera or building a brand or clothing or whatever it is that you do, if you have the ability to, I hope we can curse here, go through the
You're good.
shit and come out the other side. And of course, you have to be realistic about it. I was lucky that I never had a girlfriend or a wife or a pet or a baby or a plant or parents I had to support or anything like that. I could just be me and live off of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches until I could find some money to scrounge by. A lot of people don't have that reality, and you have to take care of what are your priorities, and
Yeah.
that's certainly a thing that's a detriment for a lot of people. But as long as you have the opportunity to continue crawling through that mud, you really need to have this sense of I can't fail. Like this needs to work because there is no plan B. For me, there's never been a plan B. I've never wanted to be a writer. I never wanted to be a producer. My parents would always tell me, what about media relations? Become a speechwriter for a politician, like do all this other stuff. And I was like, no, I want to be on air. I want to be holding a microphone. And so just putting that out of your mind, the idea that there's another option, I think for a lot of people is what you really need to do to be able to end up succeeding where you want to succeed.
Absolutely. You read the next follow-up question right out of my mind. I was gonna ask you what your plan B was if this thing didn't work out. But it surely did, and it's awesome to see how grounded you are and how that whole process turned out. You mentioned you didn't have the girlfriend and parents to support. How did you, I guess, facilitate or maintain your friendships as you started to achieve more success? And I'm sure that certain relationships with people started to evolve or maybe dissolve over time. I mean, how did you kind of weave through that and navigate those relationships that you did have as you started to achieve more success?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing for anybody, no matter what you do in life, is having a support system and a base. And luckily, I've always had a big family. We would be, 35, 40 people at Thanksgiving every year at our house. My mom, cooking for hours up at 4 a.m. So those are the people that no matter how big the screen is at Citi Field that I'm on, they will always be the ones to tell me, your hair was out of place or your makeup was terrible or whatever, right? So they keep
Yeah,
you grounded and they love to bust chops, and you need that in your life.
you do.
Luckily, we moved to the town where my parents raised us after a couple of moves when I was younger, when I was 12, and they still live in that same house. So the same friends I've had since middle school, we some of us are in fantasy baseball leagues together. I'm the godfather to some of their kids. We
Yeah,
still talk on group chats every day. So you need those people in life that knew you before you were anybody or you went
right.
anywhere. And so for me, it's always been a matter of trying to keep in touch with those people because that helps make life better in general. And just the
Yep.
fact that I do what I do for a living where strangers now know me doesn't change anything. But no, it certainly was tough too, because, it cost me a lot of relationships. There were literally women that I was dating, and then, I get a job offer. We're in New Jersey dating, and I get a job offer in North Carolina. And she's like, well, sorry, but I don't think I can be with a guy that's going to want to move every couple of years. And that's completely her right. And, you have to just be mature about what you want at that time in your life, what someone else wants at that time in their life. And hopefully, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner or a family member, you're going to find yourself connecting with the right person that has similar outlooks as you, and that it ends up working out. So for me, I ended up not meeting my wife until I was 35, a lot later than I had hoped or planned.
Right.
But it got to a point where I was settled in my career. She was as well. And if we had met each other 10 years earlier, probably wouldn't have worked out. So
Absolutely.
it's something that, yeah, when you have these other priorities, these other brands, and I've met people along the way that's happened to. They started as a sports anchor in Mississippi, and then they got to San Diego, then they moved to Denver, and then they met someone. And sure, their dream was to maybe then go to Chicago or LA or New York, but they met someone, fell in love, decided to make their life in the city that they fell in love with too. And that happens as well. So as you grow and evolve and your life grows and evolves, your priorities will change and what you're looking for changes. And the hope is just to find some people along the way that are down for the ride.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer that kind of what's meant to be and who's meant to be a part of the journey will stay. And it sounds like that's kind of the messaging you've gotten there too.
Takes work though. You can't just say, oh, you know what? If it happens, it happens. You got to put in that effort. You got to put in the communication, the time, and you got to really be emotionally available and intelligent and all that stuff. So,
right.
if you want to succeed in any kind of a passion project, like what you're building or what I've made my career into, it takes work.
It does.
It shouldn't be easy. Shouldn't be hard, but it's going to be work.
Right. No, I mean, nothing worth having in life to me comes easy. So you're absolutely right on
straight
there. So I saw one of the things one of the things you do is coaching and mentoring. Is that kind of your ultimate mission with all of your achievements that you've done? Is that your next step in terms of like your vision of where you see yourself at 50, 60, 70 years old? Like, do you want to be mentoring and coaching people? Personally, for me, that is one of my long-term goals, is to eventually grow something so cool and big that I can share the knowledge and share the lessons I've learned and, just inspire people to do more. It really sounds like that's what you're also trying to do. Is that kind of an incorrect assessment, or is there kind of a more of a vision with your mentor?
Partially incorrect, just because I guess it's partially incomplete, although incomplete by nature is partial, right? Well, number one, I can't envision myself at 50 or 60 or 70 years old, period. I can't think that far ahead. I still feel in my head like I'm 30. So,
right.
So it's always just like, especially in my position now as a freelancer, like we're talking now in the middle of January, and until Met season comes back, some winters I have a lot of work. Sometimes I'm on MSG talking sports betting before Knicks games, and traveling to Italy to record TV shows. And other winters like this one, I haven't had a job in 3 months. I've been a full-time stay-at-home dad. So for me in my position now, the priority is just, all right, what's the next opportunity? What's the next thing that can help pay for my baby's diapers? What's the next cool thing coming along that I could fit in with the other stuff that I'm doing? So longer term thinking, I unfortunately don't necessarily have that luxury, which a lot of people don't. But at the same time, it is something that I would love to supplement everything that I do with, like that coaching, the mentoring. One of the things I love, and the reason I started doing that in the first place, was number one, during COVID, like a lot of people's ideas during the pandemic, I had no work because there were no sports, there was no movies, there were nothing. So I was sitting at home and I was thinking, well, what can I do? I'm feeling purposeless. And what I remember was when I was coming up in college, after college, I didn't feel like I had anybody that I could talk to that was active in media that was where I wanted to be. I had professors from school, sure. I had people that maybe worked behind the scenes, behind camera, and these people could offer me a lot of advice and thoughts and opinions, but I wanted to talk to someone that was doing what I wanted to do. And I never had that. And having that might have saved me a lot of mistakes or helped me avoid a lot of things that I did. And so I thought that would be cool for me to be that for people. And so, I started this sort of coaching business, which was great at the time. But then as the pandemic let up and things were getting back to normal, I now started getting back to work. And the time to sit down with people, sometimes 2-3 times a week for an hour to coach them, wasn't there anymore because I was still very active in pursuing my career. So I was still, now I don't necessarily coach one-on-one so
Got
much.
it.
I'm happy to take, if there's a college kid reaches out to me through Syracuse or through a local or university or through a friend or whatever, I'm happy to sit down with them and talk to them and just give them that stuff, for free. I'm not
Yeah,
looking to make money on that anymore. I just want to be able to pay it forward and help
that's awesome.
somebody the way that I didn't necessarily have that help myself. Bigger groups, I do like public speaking, teaching, or for different corporations, things like that. And for those guys, I'm going to charge a little cash because you got to
Yeah,
make
of
a little
course,
bit of money.
of course,
But for me
of
now, the
course.
number one thing is just trying to increase this fraternity.
Yeah,
That is people being on camera. And I still talk to people like college professors of mine who, even though they've retired from being professors, still do that. So longer term, yeah, I could see as I get older into my twilight years being able to share
yeah.
that knowledge, whether it's with my own kid or people in my family that want it, or just strangers that want to follow in my footsteps. But I'm not thinking too much about hanging up the microphone myself just yet.
Yep.
One day for sure, but I'm still very much focused on trying to just continue to experience and provide as many cool opportunities for myself and my on-air presence as much as I can
Yeah.
still.
That's awesome. Everything you're saying is exactly what the Forever Next Year brand is evolving as well into a philosophy of there's always that next thing you can do, that next chapter, that next step where you can grow your career. It doesn't have to end when you achieve some level of success. And I think the example I always talk about is like Tom Brady and Shaquille O'Neal. They've achieved championship goals and rings, but you always see them on commercials. You see Tom Brady announcing. You see them. Shaq owns has Burger Kings or something. So it's so cool, and seeing that kind of mindset it's really awesome.
Well, especially it comes down to if you like what you do. I know a lot of people, friends, family, that they look toward retirement as the goal when
Right.
they're 25.
Right.
And it's just because like they don't like what they do for a living. And a lot of people don't have that luxury. You have to put food on the table, and that's a reality. But if you're someone who loves what you do, like I could never picture myself retiring because I love doing this. I love talking on camera. I love talking in a microphone. I love telling stories. I love creating content. And that's something you could do until your last day. So that's something where, you see a lot of the greats and they might lose their fastball over the years, but it's something that I think I'll always have a passion for. And that's something that if you build whatever it is you want to build and you really care for it and you love doing it and you enjoy it, it's cliche, but if you like what you do, you never work a day in your life. That whole thing, I'm a big believer in that to an extent. So I think that's something that a lot of people can reorient their perspective toward if they're doing something they really have a passion for.
Absolutely. Listen, I know we're getting up on time, so kind of last point I want to talk about. I know that this off season for the Mets has been a chaotic one. We lost our big guys, Alonso, Nimmo, Diaz. What do you have to say to the fan base and fans, diehard, passionate fans like myself, to keep us motivated that this could be the year where something special happens? What do you have to say to fans like us to just give us something here, Mike?
Well, first, I want to ask you, what happens when the Mets do win? Do you have to change the Forever Next Year name? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so it's honestly it's an interesting question, and the whole kind of purpose why I started it is to reverse the curses of all this stuff. So I will happily shut down my website. I will never sell another T-shirt. If I will never sell another one of these. If the Mets win a World Series in my lifetime, these won't exist anymore. These will be a relic. So,
Yeah. You'll have to
so
rebrand. Next year is now. See if
but
that's trademarked yet.
well, yeah, good idea. Well, I actually did. I have trademarked "Forever Is Now,"
Okay.
and I am selling merchandise that say "Forever Is Now" in Knicks edition stuff because the Knicks have, well, not recently, but this season they won the Cup
Yeah,
championship.
baby. NBA Cup. That's a ring.
Exactly. Right. So "Forever Is Now" will be the rebrand, but that's also why this is Forever Next Year is a mindset as well as a sports thing. But that's
All
how
right. Well, let's get back to
yeah,
to why next year might be this year.
yeah.
So yeah, look, it's brutal, and it's not just that the Mets lost guys; they lost guys that were synonymous with this version of the Mets. Right? I am now longer tenured with the Mets than any player on the active roster. Right? So these are
Give you
guys
a
that,
contract.
yeah,
Team
seriously.
day to get on the field.
Yeah, no opt-outs in my contract.
Yeah.
But it's incredible how sports can build a bond between a community and one person, because you see them on your TV all the time, or you see them every day. And Brandon Nimmo was that guy, Pete Alonso was that guy, Edwin Diaz was that guy. So to see those particular guys leave in this case, I think is what really makes it sting, because it wasn't just good players, it was good guys that people came to know and love and invite into their lives year after year for 5 or 6
Especially
months.
Nimmo.
Especially now, yeah. And Pete was, both of them, they were homegrown guys. And
Right.
Edwin obviously came over by trade, but these are two guys that, and the Mets as a franchise historically, David Wright kind of being the only exception, don't have a great track record of offensive players doing great their entire career, never leaving Queens. So we thought, oh, maybe Pete Alonso is going to be the guy to like hit 500 homers and get his number retired and win a ring and do it all here without ever leaving Queens. And now like that's gone. So that's why it's extra brutal, and I think extra difficult to try and get excited for this year. But here comes the turnaround.
Here we go. This is what we came for.
We're talking right now we're recording this at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, January 21st. Earlier today, Bo Bichette was introduced at Citi Field, his introductory press
Correct.
conference. The Mets got Luis Robert Jr. Sorry to see you go, Luis Angel Acuna.
Yeah.
But I think it's an incredible low-risk move for what the Mets are looking for. And what we're seeing out of all this is that David Stearns does have a plan. And the offseason's not over yet. I still think there's a starting pitcher to come with no inside knowledge myself, but I think there's one coming. And with all the regression negatively that the Mets had last year, Sean Manaea coming back so late from injury and not being able to have his 2024 form, Clay Holmes maybe running out of gas at the end of the year, Kodai Senga not being the Senga that we remember, I think all that has to not totally flip back to 2024, but at least kind of meet in the middle, which is going to be positive regression no matter what. And now you throw in a full season of Nolan McLean, you throw in whatever other starters might come. If we get Milwaukee Devin Williams instead of first half of last season Devin Williams, I think that's going to be incredible value for the Mets in replacing Edwin and locking down the back end of that bullpen. And you're seeing the plan. David Stearns has been all about it the whole time. Run prevention, playing more solid baseball. And right now, Marcus Semien, say what you want about his age or his declining bat, the guy still posts, and his defense has never been an issue, even when his offense has been tough. So now you're going to have up the middle, Semien and Lindor. Francisco Alvarez has been great and gotten better every year defensively. And then you have, Robert in center. Who knows what Carson Bench is going to be? This front office seems to have a lot of faith in him being the guy sooner rather than later. You still have Juan Soto. Don't forget about him. Maybe the best hitter in baseball locked in there. Bichette, Beatty. I mean, you have a lot of guys that I think have shown a lot of good stuff. Jorge Polanco is a good piece. I think it's going to be a team that might not have that glitz and glamour of what the Dodgers might trot out there, for example, night after night. But it's going to be a team that I think will win a lot of 3-1, 4-2 games. And you stack those up and you end up being a really tough out. And it's a division that's up for grabs, the NL East. I don't see any team. Atlanta had all the rights last year to pull away and just didn't happen, even though they have all the marquee names in the tin. So the Mets have a plan. There's a reason that David Stearns was the guy that every Mets fan wanted running this organization. You cannot turn on him this soon into his tenure, as a lot of Mets fans were doing. I saw you guys doing this online all winter. But he's got a vision, and he's enacting it. And unfortunately, if that means cutting ties with some guys that we grew personally attached to, sadly, that's the business element of this. But I tell you what, if the Mets get off to like a 10-2 start come March and April this year, everybody's going to be cool with it. Everyone's going to forget the ups and downs and the anguish of this offseason. And it's going to be, forever is now, hopefully sooner rather than later.
That's what I'm hearing from you. That's what I came to hear you say today. So really appreciate it.
Hey, man, my pleasure. And then, once Tarek Skubal is an orange and blue next year as a free agent, then this will all be a distant memory. So no, we'll wait and see. And look, it's I'll leave this as a parting thought, being a Mets fan and for Mets fans. These are the times we had always wished for. All the years when the Mets were 30 games out by August, all the years where there was no shot of competing for a wild card, all the years where they weren't even in a position to be disappointed by a free agent like Yamamoto or like Tucker. Like, the fact that we as fans now have these expectations that this is our reality, that's a blessing. Because especially for those of us like me who grew up, our first Mets memories were like those early 90s teams, post 86 core, pre 99 core. Those were rough days, man.
Yep.
And for the fan base that also then came about in like the early 2000s, between that last World Series core and then the David Wright come up in 06, and then again, in the early 2010s, like, we've had some dry spells. So this is good. This is good to be in this position, to be mad that we got outbid for Kyle Tucker. That's a good thing, because when I was growing up, Kyle Tucker would have never even taken a meeting with the Mets. So this is great. Keep that mentality, everyone. Keep that perspective. And sooner rather than later, I have a feeling we'll all be going to a parade down the Canyon of Heroes, and it's going to be for the boys in orange and blue.
There we go. We love it. We love the optimism here. We love the pride, and we're going to keep this ship going. I think that, like you said, Stearns has a plan. We just got to stick through it. We got to stay together as fans, and we'll get there. So, Mike, really appreciate you coming on the pod today. It's been a pleasure. And let's go Mets. I'll see you out there on the field.
That's it, Justin. Pleasure's mine. Best of luck. Yeah, anybody watching, listening, you head out to Citi Field this year, come say hi. And good luck, man. And let's go Mets. That's all we got to say.
Thank you, Mike. Take it easy.